Ladies and gentlemen, Chinese leader Xi Jinping is Napoleon, but not the cool one. No, Xi is strikingly similar to Louis Napoleon, also known as Napoleon III, the very embarrassing last emperor of the French. This guy is a very different figure from the Napoleon you've probably heard of. The first Napoleon was the epic world historical figure who battled all of Europe to a standstill for 2 decades before losing it all through the hubris of invading Russia. Louis Napoleon was a clownish mid-19th century dictator whose international meddling led to his capture by a foreign army and the creation of the modern German state that did so much damage to France and the world. Now, Xi Jinping could end up with a much better historical reputation than Napoleon III. We won't know for decades, but I'm not exactly what you'd call optimistic. Back in 2018, Xi made himself the all-powerful ruler of China with no term limits. This means that if anything goes wrong, he's going to get the blame. We'll see, I guess, but it's not anything in Xi's very short record that makes me think of the shitty Napoleon. It's why Xi came to power and what it says about China today that makes me think of France back then. In 1815, France had come to the end of an epic struggle. Napoleon had finally been dethroned, and France had to deal with the fact that despite their genius leader and their massive wealth and manpower, they had lost that epic struggle to the British. For the next 3 decades or so, through another revolution and multiple kings, the French aggressively tried to copy the British and set up some kind of successful mercantile and industrial constitutional monarchy. I see this whole arc as obviously completely different, but still strikingly similar to what's been going on in China over the past century. Napoleon was an epic historical figure, and so is Chairman Mao. To get out ahead of about 100 YouTube comments, yes, Mao was a mass murderer, but so was the cool Napoleon. And unlike the much more happily remembered Napoleon, Mao actually managed to bring about a somewhat successful result for his people. Chairman Mao's rise to power and rule was super rough on the Chinese, but he managed to establish what a century's worth of emperors and more US-friendly rulers had not: actual Chinese independence. After he died, leaders like Deng Xiaoping realized that revolutionary upheaval may have been effective, but getting rich might be nice. Like the French between the Napoleons imitating the British, the Chinese imitated the capitalist and industrial rich. The Chinese didn't go fully democratic, of course, but they set up a boring, consensus-driven system with regular transitions of power. The French in the 1800s and the Chinese of today both found a ton of success in imitating these other systems. Both models created a whole bunch of rich people, but they also left a lot of people behind. This kind of inequality can be a real issue, especially in systems like 1800s France and China today that have very recent revolutionary history that living people remember. The left behind want that old revolutionary vigor back to bring power to the people, and the winners want to be protected from the left behind. The thing about a strongman is that he can do both of these things, or at least pretend to. Different but oddly similar events brought both Napoleon III and Xi Jinping to power. Europe-wide famine and financial crisis brought the revolutions of 1848. China's response to the worldwide 2008 financial crisis has finally led to economic slowdown in that country as well. Both figures rose to power through the established systems. Xi is China's next approved leader, and Louis Napoleon was actually elected French president. Xi has discarded his term limits, and Napoleon made himself emperor after a coup. Both of these figures reconcile the tensions between the haves and have-nots in ways that democracy can't. Napoleon was initially elected by more left-leaning supporters, yet is largely seen by historians as governing in the interests of businessmen. Xi Jinping is a representative of the enormously wealthy princeling class that rules China, yet he portrays himself as the new Mao, and he's bringing back communist propaganda. Napoleon was lucky enough to launch his Second French Empire at the start of a worldwide economic boom. It took 2 decades for him to fall. The economic headwinds Xi Jinping will face will be much stronger. On the other hand, Xi Jinping doesn't have an obvious German colossus waiting in the wings to squash him. India is much poorer than China, and the United States is currently losing its mind. Regardless, I think it's worth emphasizing that the Xi Jinping era in China is not a permanent repudiation of normal economic development and democracy. It's just a phase. In fact, it's a phase that's very similar to something that we've seen before. After the fall of Napoleon III, France set up the Third Republic, which still represents the longest period of stable representative government that France has ever seen. If anybody in Washington, D.C. actually knew some history, I think we'd all be a little less panicked about Xi Jinping. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and click the bell next to the subscribe button to get a notification whenever I upload a video. Thanks.